can you tell us what it is that we need to know about the variants in as much as it impacts our lives?
The variants are basically the virus mutating or evolving, and so there are changes in the viral genome. And this is normal, it's expected for RNA viruses as they multiply. Every time the virus replicates, it brings about a small change. It's an error, basically, that happens. Most of them are of no importance. They don't affect the virus in any way. Some of them could have some impact on how the virus is able to spread. Some may make it easier and some may make it more difficult for the virus. And this is because of the changes in particular areas like the spike protein, which is the protein of the virus that helps it to come and attach itself to the human cells. Sometimes those changes or mutations make it more easy for the virus to attach itself to the respiratory tract cells. And so it's easier then for it to infect. And then it also helps it to multiply faster and create a higher viral load in the respiratory tract. So the variants of interest are those where there are some observations that the variant may be behaving a little bit differently. So that's usually the initial observation by the epidemiologists of that place, which suggests that a certain variant with some specific mutations is behaving differently. And then as more research is done and more data is accumulated, we decide whether that's a variant of concern or not. And to classify it as a variant of concern, it needs to fulfill it has to have certain properties. It has to be either shown to be more transmissible than the original strain, which is called the Wuhan strain or the D614 strain. It has to show more clinical severity in patients who get infected, or it has to show resistance to antibodies, either from people who've had previous infection or from people who've received the vaccine. So a strain that fulfills one or more of those criteria is called a variant of concern. And so far, WHO has 4 variants of concern, the latest being the B1.617, first described in India, but now found in about 50 countries worldwide. I think for the public, what is important is that it doesn't really matter. The variant of the virus is still the same virus and it's still behaving in the same way and having the same effects on people. A particular variant may be more transmissible, which is what we're seeing in India today, that it spreads much more easily, but you have to give it the opportunity to spread. So I think if people can remember that they have to do the same things, they have to wear a mask, they have to avoid crowds, they have to preferably avoid meeting people in indoor settings, especially with poor ventilation, and maintain a physical distance as far as possible, and maintain basic hygiene, of cough hygiene, not going out if you're sick, and making sure that you get tested and then you isolate yourself if you're infected. So the principles of public health and of personal protection have not changed at all. They are the same. So it really doesn't matter whether it's one variant or another. We need to do the same things, especially when the community transmission is happening at such a high rate.
Is there data to say that it is, there seems to be signs that it is highly transmissible, but is there data on resistance and is there data to show that it is more virulent, the B1.617 strain?
For the B1.617, I think what we know so far is that it's definitely more transmissible. 1.5 to 2 times more transmissible than the original strain. And in fact, it looks at that it's even more transmissible than the B117, which came from the UK or which was identified in the UK, and which had at one point become the predominant strain in India. But it's now being replaced by the B1.617 that shows that this is even more transmissible. Now, there are sublineages that have been described. The 617 itself has been divided into 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and each of them has a slightly different set of mutations with slightly different properties. We are looking for more results coming. So at the moment, I haven't seen any data that it causes a more severe disease. There is some preliminary data that it has lower neutralizing antibody activity. I mean, that it is able to not able to overcome I'm looking for the correct expression, that the neutralizing antibody responses against this variant from people who've recovered from previous infection or from people who've been vaccinated by Covishield and Covaxin is less. It's about 2 to 4-fold less. Now that's a lab study. What we don't have is data from the real world as to whether there is a higher chance of getting infected or of getting seriously ill with the new variant after vaccination with either Covishield or Covaxin, or for that matter, any of the other vaccines. So there's really an urgent need for us to do more comprehensive research studies, which go hand in hand with the sequencing. So the sequencing alone is not going to give us the information we want. Along with the sequencing, you need the data on the clinical profile of patients. You need data on epidemiology and transmission. And we need data on people who've received the vaccine and have been followed up for a period of time to look at the breakthrough infections. What is the rate of breakthrough infections? What is a pattern of breakthrough infections? We expect breakthrough infections, so it's not a surprise, but we need to see what rate at which it is occurring, and are people really getting ill, or are people getting mild infections after vaccination? So that is really going to give us the information we need about this variant that is going to be important for us to plan ahead.